How much do you know about Liam Coen? You probably know he's the new Jaguars head coach, but do you know what about his coaching history has us excited about his arrival? And is the best evidence of the Liam Coen effect actually a couple of years at Kentucky? We'll be talking about that and 5 other key NFL coaches for this fantasy football season. An all new episode of the Draft Sharks podcast starts right now. Matt Schaff and Jared Smola of DraftSharks.com here to hit a topic that can sometimes go overlooked in fantasy football. We're talking NFL coaches. More specifically, we're talking coaching changes ahead of 2025. You can find a full article on all the coaching changes that matter on DraftSharks.com. Both Kevin and Shane have been working on that one. For this show, Jared and I are going to zero in on the 6 most important coaching changes for your fantasy football drafts. And Jared, we're going to start here with one that we've actually already talked about a pretty good bit. It's the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson, of course, in as the new head coach, 3 very successful years as Detroit's OC before that. Had head coaching opportunities last offseason, but it seemed like he passed on those to stay in Detroit for one more year. That tells me that he likes this particular opportunity in Chicago. So what does this change mean for Bears players in the offense?
Yeah, I think this one is probably, or at least has the potential to be the most impactful coaching change, because you look at what Ben Johnson did in Detroit. Those 3 Lions teams, 5th, and 1st in points scored. They were 4th, 3rd, and 2nd in yards. They were 5th, 4th, and 2nd in yards per play. Compare that to what we got from the 2024 Bears, 28th in points, dead last in total yards, dead last in yards per play. So we're talking about an offense that was, arguably the worst in the NFL last year. Getting this new head coach who just led one of the best offenses. The interesting thing here is just much different personnel in Chicago than what Ben Johnson had in Detroit. I mean, starting at quarterback, you have Caleb Williams, a different type of quarterback than Jared Goff, right? More mobile, can do more stuff outside the pocket than Jared Goff. So that's the starting point. Look at the backfield. I mean, much more talent Ben Johnson had in Detroit than he has now in Chicago. That's going to make, I think, the run pass split in Chicago interesting, because we know these Lions teams were very run heavy. A lot of that was by design. You look at the pass rate over expected rankings for Ben Johnson's team, 13th in his first year, but then 25th and 21st the last 2 years. The Lions were also really good, so they were playing with a lot of leads. That even pushed them further towards the run. So going to be interesting. I mean, these Lions teams were around, 55, 56% pass. They were just 52% pass in Johnson's last season in Detroit. We're projecting the Bears right now at 59% pass, which would be a big shift for Johnson. But he has talked about, since he got there, adjusting his offense to the personnel. He's not going to, be running the Lions offense in Chicago. We like to hear that. He's going to adjust to his scheme. So just looking at the Bears personnel right now, I think this should be an offense that leans more towards the pass than Johnson's Lions did.
Yeah, it's certainly built like it should pass more. And even though they weren't very good on offense last year, there's plenty of talent on hand. They add to that in the draft this year with their first 2 picks, Colston Loveland and Luther Burden. So there's plenty to like overall. And it's going to be a very interesting offense to watch no matter how it goes. Who is the player that you're either drafting or fading because of this coaching change?
I originally had Luther Burden as the draft target here for Chicago. I'm going to change that to DJ Moore and or Luther Burden. I think at cost now, DJ Moore's price tag has dropped in recent drafts. He's like wide receiver 23 in ADP right now. Luther Burden is wide receiver 51 at last check on Underdogs. I think you can take both guys. You could take either or. And the reason I like this is because you look at the Ben Johnson offenses in Detroit. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the focal point of the passing game. Even Sam Laporta obviously has had some big seasons. And the similarity between those 2 guys is they are slot type players. And Ben Johnson, even after arriving in Chicago, talked about how the slot position is crucial in his offense. Now, Luther Burden, 88% of his pass routes over the last 2 seasons in college came from the slot. So I think that's where the Bears envision him. I also think DJ Moore is capable of playing in the slot. He hasn't done it primarily in the pros, but I think he's kind of the archetype that can work in there. DJ Moore also, a lot of his career NFL production has come on screen passes. I think Ben Johnson is excellent at designing screen passes. So I think DJ Moore and Luther Burden, I'm just super interested to see how Ben Johnson deploys those guys. I think both guys could, their talent could be maximized in this offense. And again, I think they're both going in pretty fair price ranges in drafts right now.
I can see drafting Luther Burden. He hasn't been a target for me because he's in this interesting pocket among several other rookie wide receivers by underdog ADP. Emeka Ibuka, Jaden Higgins just in front of him, Trey Harris behind him. And then there's also, outside of the rookies, we've got Josh Downs not far ahead. We've got Michael Pittman Jr. just behind Burden. We've got Keon Coleman, Rashid Shaheed behind. So Burden hasn't been a target for me. I think he's okay in that range. I like other players better. DJ Moore, I think the fact that his ADP has fallen since the draft is a mistake by fantasy drafters. I think the mistake that people are making, it's similar to the second season of Amon-Ra St. Brown. After we saw him break out as this target hog late in his rookie year in Detroit, then people were like, yeah, but now there are more people around, so he's not going to get those targets. I think it's a similar mistake with DJ Moore right now. There are a whole bunch of guys, including some new ones that have been drafted since the new coach arrived. So people are like, maybe there's not enough for DJ Moore. He's the only member of this group that has proven he's very good, has produced big numbers across multiple bad offenses, produced in Carolina, produced with the Bears, with two different quarterbacks who were lackluster with the Bears. So I'm going to go ahead and bet on DJ Moore very easily anywhere in wide receiver 2 range. I think he has upside into the top 12. He's definitely my favorite target among these Bears.
Yeah, I think the concern with Moore would be that just a lot of his metrics were down last year. Now, I'm willing to give the entire Bears organization a mulligan from last year. It was just so dysfunctional. And DJ Moore is still in an age range where we're not worried about him dropping off. So I'm definitely still, but I think the price drop was warranted. I think it's gone too far. I think, he's dropped too far in ADP, and he was already a value pre-draft, I think, and we were already kind of higher on him pre-draft. So we've kind of remained above market on DJ Moore again. Wide receiver 23, I think, in ADP. I think he's a good shot to take in that type of price range.
Like I said, we've talked about this Bears offense a good bit already. We're certainly not done doing so. For one thing, we're going to be bringing back our popular division by division preview series on the podcast this summer. Easily the shows that we get asked about the most. So they will be back this summer. Make sure you subscribe either on YouTube or whatever audio pod channel you're using. Don't miss that series and the rest of the content that we're going to be posting multiple times a week throughout the rest of the year, including the regular season. Let's shift now, Jared, to the Detroit Lions, who of course lost Ben Johnson to that head coaching position with the Bears. They replaced him with John Morton. And I have to admit that when I first heard that, I was like, oh, cool. Johnny Morton's going to be the OC in Detroit after being a receiver there years ago. It's not that guy. It's a white dude, much older. Past 2 years was the Broncos passing game coordinator. He spent a year as a Lions assistant just before that, 2022. John Morton has been in the NFL for most of the past 23 years, just one season so far as an NFL OC. That was 2017 with the Jets. So it's a fairly new opportunity for him, but he's not a young guy. He turns 56 in September. We're going to have to get Alex, I think, working on those NFL coaching aging curves when he gets back from vacation. What does John Morton, though, mean for this offense on whole?
Well, I think the Lions are clearly going for continuity here, right? I mean, like you said, Matt, Morton was not in Detroit the past 2 years, but he did work under Ben Johnson in Ben Johnson's first year in 2022. Morton was the senior offensive assistant. I mean, even the last 2 years, I think working under Sean Payton, I think likely a mark in his favor. I mean, right, he's worked under two strong offensive minds these last 3 years. That Jets team that Morton coordinated in 2017 was not very good. It was also quarterbacked by Josh McCown and Bryce Petty, if you remember Bryce Petty. So I'm not going to count that against him too much. Morton did spend 2 seasons as USC's offensive coordinator. Those teams finished 20th and 46th in the country in total yards per game. They were both top 11 in pass yards per game. They were good passing offenses. But again, I think the Lions are going for continuity here. They don't want to change too much in terms of, personnel and play calling and all that type of stuff. This is going to remain an offense, I think, focused on the backfield. You could see a slight lean towards the pass. And I'm talking slight. This is not going to turn into the Bengals or whatever, where they're one of the pass heaviest offenses in the NFL, because they do still have Dan Campbell as their head coach. But Morton was a passing game coordinator under Sean Payton the past 2 years. Again, he had strong passing games at USC. You even look at 2022, and I don't know if Morton had anything to do with this, but 2022, the year Morton was there with Ben Johnson, that was the year the Lions were 13th in pass rate over expected, and they were 25th and 21st the past 2 years. So that Morton year was the pass heaviest Lions offense among the last 3 years. So maybe a bit more passing in Detroit. The other thing too, I think the change in offensive coordinator means there's a chance that the backfield workload split changes a bit. And I would obviously, I think, be towards Jahmyr Gibbs with a new play caller in town. Again, I'm not really expecting that, because I think Dan Campbell freaking loves David Montgomery. And I think he's going to make sure he remains a big part of the offense. But I think there's at least the chance, the potential for that to happen with a new play caller.
2022 was also a year that the Lions went 9-8. It was also the year before they signed David Montgomery and drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. So the backfield was Jamal Williams dominating it in a surprising way, and DeAndre Swift running behind him. So certainly different personnel at that point. By the way, USC also where wide receiver Johnny Morton went. So I don't know whether this John Morton is in the midst of a long play ID theft scheme or if he's just, a bunch of coincidences, but we'll put that aside for now. We'll see exactly what the OC switch means. I think one thing to note for this team is that, they've had success for several years now, and that can often lead to your coordinators getting new jobs. And the Lions have lost both their OC and their defensive coordinator this offseason, 2 head coaching posts. So those are pretty big changes for this team. I think we shouldn't be shocked if the Lions are not quite as good as the past couple of years. I'm not saying they're going to be bad, but maybe, just some slight drop off because of new challenges. And, like you said, we'll see what the impact is on the offense. If they don't win as many games, that would naturally mean more passing volume. I think really what I'm trying to capture with this offense is some uncertainty. I'm not going to go into this season expecting the Lions to be fantastic on offense just because that's what they were the past 3 years. And that's, I think, the way that the market is treating them. So for this show, I'm going to focus on fading Sam Laporta. The price isn't terrible on him, even though he's tight end 4 in best ball ADP right now, near the end of round 6 on Underdog. That's nearly 2 rounds behind George Kittle, who's number 3, nearly 4 rounds behind Trey McBride, who's number 2. But the question with Laporta is, what are you gaining by drafting him in that range over waiting on other tight ends? And I don't think it's a whole lot. So Laporta finished 9th in PPR points per game at the position last season. He tied for just 12th in total targets, and he tied with Mike Gesicki. He was behind Dalton Schultz. He was behind Jake Ferguson, behind Cade Otton, behind Zach Ertz. And I bring up those names to just kind of highlight how I don't think that we're getting a difference maker by drafting Sam Laporta where he goes. So I think you're better off focusing on a different position in that range and waiting for one of the other tight ends. Because if you do want to pick Sam Laporta in that range, you got to figure out exactly what you're betting on happening. Are you betting that he's going to siphon target share from Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams? Because I'm not. Are you betting on him suddenly finding himself in a pass-heavy offense that supports multiple guys easily? I'm not betting on that either. And then the only other option, I think, for drafting Sam Laporta there is you're betting that he's going to have really good TD luck like he did as a rookie. Betting on above average TD luck is never a good bet. So just all in all, Sam Laporta has been a fade for me.
And just to bring it back to the departure of Ben Johnson, man, I swear Sam Laporta, more than any other player, especially his rookie year and even a few times last year, he would just be wide open, streaking down the field for his touchdowns. And I think, Ben Johnson had a lot to do with that, with his scheme, with his play design stuff. So I do think Laporta maybe will be hurt most by Ben Johnson's departure.
Now, I've downplayed Laporta. I've downplayed Jahmyr Gibbs. If you think that I'm about to get burned badly for my pessimism on these Lions offensive pieces, feel free to let me know in the comments section for this show, wherever you're taking it in. I am happy to get any sort of feedback, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. I especially like the disagree with me. You will hear back from me either way. So let us know what you think. On to our third team here with the coaching changes. It is the Dallas Cowboys, who dumped Mike McCarthy after last season. They hired his offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer, to be the new Cowboys head coach. Schottenheimer spent the previous 2 seasons as Cowboys offensive coordinator. He spent the previous 3 seasons overall on the Dallas staff. He has 14 total seasons as an NFL offensive coordinator behind him across 4 teams, of course, including the Cowboys. It's his first head coaching gig at any level, though. Jared, what does this mean for the Cowboys offense?
Yeah, and you look back at Schottenheimer's 14 seasons as offensive coordinator, and you kind of think he likes to run the ball, right? 8 of his first 11 offenses ranked higher in rush attempts than pass attempts. 2 things I would say to kind of rebut the idea that this guy really wants to be a run-leaning play caller. First of all, he coached under some just like old school, run-loving, defensive-minded head coaches. Rex Ryan, Jeff Fisher, Pete Carroll. I think it's safe to say those guys probably had some influence on Schottenheimer's play calling, that the run pass split on his offenses. The other thing to consider here too is that Schottenheimer's last 3 teams now have ranked higher in pass attempts than rush attempts. That includes these last 2 Dallas teams who were 8th and 3rd in pass attempts with Schottenheimer as OC the past 2 years. They were 13th and 6th in the NFL in pass rate over those 2 years. And look at last year in Dak Prescott's 8 healthy games to open the season. 66.7% pass rate for the Cowboys. That easily led the NFL over those first 8 games. We're at this point, we're projecting the Cowboys at a 61.6% pass rate, one of the higher marks in the league. We're willing to adjust that as we, hear more from Schottenheimer, look at what this offense looks like in training camp and preseason. But for now, I'm expecting this Cowboys offense to be very pass leaning. And another part of that beyond the coaching change is just look at the personnel. The backfield looks weak. Pass catching core looks strong after adding George Pickens. So if Schottenheimer's smart, I think this will be an offense that is pass centric.
Yeah, and you mentioned that seeming run happy pass. I think just what you had just finished saying, look at the personnel. Look at what the Cowboys did this offseason. They switched to a coach who has leaned pass with Dak Prescott, worked with Dak Prescott. They traded for George Pickens. They've populated their backfield with a bunch of pieces that individually aren't very good, that they're clearly hoping are going to, pull together to be a decent backfield. But this is a team that's going to rely on the pass. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens. I like Pickens better now than I did when he was with the Steelers in best ball drafts. So I agree. I like this Cowboys passing game right now after the coaching change.
Yeah, we talk about who to draft or fade from this team as a result of the coaching change. For me, it's just draft Dallas's passing game. I think the market is not pricing in the likelihood that this is one of the pass heaviest offenses in the NFL this season. If that's the case, we know where the ball is going, right? It's CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, then to a lesser extent, Jake Ferguson. I think all 3 of those guys. Lamb, you got to spend a top 5 pick on, but he is our number 2 overall player in full PPR behind only Jamar Chase. So I'm definitely willing to take him anywhere beyond pick number 1. I think Dak Prescott's a value. George Pickens, I think, is fine, especially in best ball. I think he's going to be the downfield option for this passing game, going to get a lot of work inside the red zone. And then Jake Ferguson, his target projection took a hit with the George Pickens arrival, but I think Ferguson's still the clear number 3 option in this passing game. If Dallas does throw as much as we think they're going to, I think Ferguson still has a good chance to, see 100 targets and finish as a top 12 fantasy tight end.
Yeah, I'm in on all those pieces. I think Dak Prescott's the biggest relative values at QB 14 in best ball ADP right now. He's showed us that he has top 6 upside. So I'll go ahead and bet on him there, especially if I already have CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens on the team. And then, once we get past best ball season and more into lineup setting, totally fine with drafting Dak Prescott onto a team that has neither of those wide receivers on the roster. Next up in our rundown is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who of course dumped Doug Peterson's staff, hired Liam Coen as new Jaguars head coach. An interesting run for Liam Coen to this point. He doesn't turn 40 years old until November, has already been the Bucs OC last year. He spent 2 separate seasons as Kentucky's offensive coordinator, sandwiching 1 year as officially the Rams offensive coordinator. I think we always just assume Sean McVay is actually coordinating that offense, probably part of why Coen went back to Kentucky before going to the Bucs. He also spent 3 other years on Sean McVay's staff before that. So Jared, what should people know about the new Jaguars head coach?
Yeah, I want to start with those Kentucky years because I was digging into them and they're more impressive than I had realized. So like you said, Matt, Coen was Kentucky's offensive coordinator in 2021 and 2023. 2021 was Will Levis's breakout season, which the fact that Coen got that season out of Levis is looking more and more impressive by the year, right? Levis is probably going to wash out in the NFL. So the fact that he had that big season under Coen, I think is a big mark in Coen's favor. You also just look at those Kentucky teams. So the year before Coen arrived, Kentucky averaged 318 yards per game. That jumped to 425 yards per game in Coen's first season. Coen leaves in 2022. Kentucky averages 100 fewer yards per game, 325. And then Coen comes back in 2023. Kentucky rebounds to 340 yards per game. So definitely seems like he was a positive for those Kentucky teams. And obviously you look at what he did in Tampa Bay last year. The Bucs finished 4th in points, 3rd in yards, 3rd in yards per play. The personnel was good, right? Baker Mayfield deserves credit for his big season, but they had very similar personnel in 2023 under Dave Canales. And that Bucs team was 20th in points, 23rd in yards, 21st in yards per play. So kind of like what we saw at Kentucky. Coen comes in and immediately makes the offense quite a bit more productive.
And by the way, that 2021 season at Kentucky was also Wan'Dale Robinson's breakthrough season that got him onto the Giants, where he has been the shortest range of short range wide receivers. I like the offense overall. The wide receivers in Jacksonville are expensive, but Tank Bigsby is the guy I'm focusing on to draft with this coaching change. I like Bashal Tutin, the rookie, but he's going nearly 3 rounds ahead of Tank Bigsby in best ball ADP. Travis Etienne, I was surprised to see this morning, Jared, is 1 spot ahead of Tutin in underdog ADP right now. So I don't know if people are getting back on him or expecting him to be traded or what, but Travis Etienne might be my biggest fade on the whole board so far. Bigsby, meanwhile, was Jacksonville's best runner last year. And even if Tootin does overtake him quickly for the top spot in this year's backfield, I don't expect Tootin to be a workhorse. He is a 4th-round pick. He was the 7th running back off the board. So not only do I think that Bigsby is the best value in this backfield and a solid pick at ADP, I think it's a good kind of reminder on how Tootin has climbed to be a little bit humble in your evaluations of players. Like, I like Tootin and I'm still willing to draft him where he's going, but seeing him that far ahead of Tank Bigsby makes me say, hang on a second. We are talking about a 4th-round pick, 7th running back off the board. Like, we want to make sure we're not liking him too much to the detriment of how we value some other guys on the team.
Yeah, I'm with you for the most part there. I am drafting some Travis Etienne, even at cost right now. If he's not traded, I think his role as the team's primary pass catching back is pretty safe because Tank Bigsby, we know, doesn't do that. Bashal Tootin wasn't a great pass catcher in college. So I think Etienne at least has that working for him. There were some positive quotes from Coen, I think earlier this week, on Travis Etienne. That might be what's causing his ADP to climb a bit. I'm drafting all 3 of these guys, though. I want pieces of this backfield. I don't know how it's going to play out. I think Tootin is, if you look at Tootin's ADP versus our ranking, he's the overvalued one. But I still want pieces of him because he is the unknown rookie, the guy who, could have the Bucky Irving-esque season for these Jags. So I want some of him because the upside. Tank Bigsby might be the best value of the 3. He was much better as a runner than Travis Etienne was last year. So if that continues, I think Coen will be willing to ride with Tank Bigsby. But again, I just want pieces. We know what Coen did for Bucky Irving last year. Rachaad White kind of quietly had his most efficient season as a pro last year in terms of yards per carry and all rushing efficiency metrics. The Bucs in general last year were 2nd in total running back PPR points. So again, I want pieces of the backfield. I think there's gonna be big fantasy impact. I don't know exactly where it's going to come from yet, but I think drafting some of all 3 guys, I think you'll come out ahead in the end.
Yeah, that uncertainty makes it easier to take pieces of all 3 guys and just see what happens. Travis Etienne, definitely, I haven't been drafting him, but he is one of the players that I look at when he comes up and think, should I be mixing him in? And I think I probably should. Maybe I am a little bit too down on him. Jared did the team preview on the Jacksonville Jaguars. You can find that live on draftsharks.com. You can read that for, deeper insights into this offense on whole, as well as all of the fantasy relevant players that the Jaguars have. More team preview articles already available on the site, also going to be hitting the site on a near daily basis going forward. And next up is a team that I'm going to be posting soon in that team preview series. It's the Las Vegas Raiders. Jared, Antonio Pierce had maybe the most predictable 1 full year head coaching stint ever. I'm sure I'm not the only one who, as soon as they decided to hire him off his interim run at the end of the year before, thought this isn't going to last long. It didn't. Antonio Pierce is out. Pete Carroll's the new Raiders head coach. And interestingly for fantasy, he imported Chip Kelly from Ohio State and many other places to be the offensive coordinator. This one's pretty fun, right?
It is, yeah. And, Pete Carroll, he's a defensive-minded head coach. It does seem like he has an impact on his team's play calling, though. We kind of alluded to that when talking about Schottenheimer with the Cowboys. But if you look at Carroll's Seahawks teams, 6 of the 14 Seattle teams finished top 4 in rushing attempts. So I think Carroll probably pushes this offense towards the run. I don't think Chip Kelly needs to be pushed in that direction anyways. I think he is a run-leaning play caller if you look at his NFL history. And this came a while ago, the 3 seasons with the Eagles, 1 season with the 49ers. All 4 of those teams ranked top 11 in rush attempts. Their ranks in run rate, 6th, 14th, 17th, and 4th. So I think this Raiders team is going to lean toward the run. Obviously, drafting Ashton Genty as high as they did only pushes them farther in that direction. The other note on Kelly, though, which I think makes this offense exciting and maybe undervalued in fantasy, at least some pieces of it, all 4, this is amazing, all 4 of his NFL offenses, those 3 Eagles teams and the 1 49ers team, ranked 1st in seconds per play in offensive pace. And a lot of them were like way ahead of every other team. It was like 22.5 seconds per play for Kelly's team. And the next highest was like 24.5 seconds. So, and we know fast paced means more plays, means more opportunities to score fantasy points. All 3 of Kelly's Eagles teams finished top 13 in offensive plays. 2 of them finished top 2 in the NFL. So I think this Raiders team could surprise in terms of just play volume, and that can definitely help all the pieces here.
Geno Smith, by the way, also might be the best quarterback that Chip Kelly will have had so far in the NFL. So I also don't think that this team is going to be very good, probably better than last year, but I don't think that it's going to be a playoff contender. So we probably still get plenty of trailing game scripts, which should help the passing volume a little bit. It's certainly a fairly condensed target tree as well. So there are plenty of interesting pieces in this Raiders offense. Who's the one guy you're focusing in on, either drafting or fading at cost right now?
Yeah, you ready for a crazy one? I think you should draft Ashton Genty.
Who?
It's tough to get too crazy with this Raiders team, right? We know where the ball's going to go. It's going to be a lot of Genty. It's going to be Bowers. It's going to be Jacoby Myers. And I like Jacoby Myers, but I wanted to focus in on Genty here because, again, Kelly does have that run-leaning history. And you look at how his top running backs performed in terms of fantasy across his 4 NFL seasons. 2013, LaShawn McCoy was PPR running back 3. 2024, LaShawn McCoy finishes 12th among running backs in PPR points. DeMarco Murray takes over as lead back in 2015 for the Eagles. He finishes RB 15. And then Chip Kelly goes to San Francisco, and Carlos Hyde finishes 11th among running backs in PPR points per game that season. Ashton Genty, at least up there with LaShawn McCoy as the most talented back Kelly has had, maybe ends up being the most talented back Kelly has had. So I think Kelly's just another mark in favor of Ashton Genty, and why I do think he's kind of fairly valued at his, later first round ADP right now.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you're not really going out on a limb by saying draft Ashton Genty, but sometimes a rookie getting pushed up as far as he is, which is late round 1 or at least at the 1-2 turn, you get a pocket of drafters that are like, nah, it's too expensive for a rookie. But I agree with you. I don't think it is too expensive for this rookie in this situation. I think when you're looking at the guys that you're considering in round 1, one good way to decide whether you are in or out on a player at that high price tag is thinking, does he have the upside to finish tops at his position? I do think that Ashton Genty has the upside to be the top scoring running back this season. Not saying I'm betting he's number 1, but I wouldn't be shocked if he outscored, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, the other running backs going in that range.
Yep, totally agree.
Final team we're going to hit here is the New Orleans Saints. Dennis Allen was gone before last season ended. Kellen Moore is the new Saints head coach. He, of course, coordinated the Eagles offense in 2024, coordinated the Chargers offense in 2023, and coordinated the Cowboys offense for 4 seasons before that. Jared, what do you like about Kellen Moore's arrival in New Orleans?
Quite a bit. I think he's a big positive for the Saints offense, and there are obviously lots of other questions with the offense, but I think Kellen Moore is good news for all the pieces here. Like you said, Matt, 6 seasons as offensive coordinator for Kellen Moore so far. 4 of those six teams finished top 7 in points scored. All 6 were top 18 in total yards. 3 of the 6 finished top 8 in total yards. 2 of the teams led the league in total yards. What I like about Kellen Moore beyond that, a couple things. One, he's been willing to adjust his play calling to the personnel. His pass rates have ranged from 61.4%, that was the 2020 Cowboys, down to 44.3% with last year's Eagles. Obviously, adjusting to a Dak Prescott-led team, to a team led by Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. Another thing with Kellen Moore, consistently fast-paced offenses with high play volume, similar to what we just talked about with Chip Kelly. Kellen Moore's offenses, all 6 of them have finished top 9 in plays per game. All 6 have averaged at least 65 plays per game. And to put that in perspective, only 4 teams last year averaged 65 plus plays per game. The Saints averaged 60.7 plays per game. So you could get a big jump in just overall play volume for this Saints team, which is one of the reasons I think it's undervalued in fantasy drafts right now.
I am fine with multiple pieces of this offense at cost. I wouldn't say that I'm more excited about any Saints player with Moore's arrival than I would be otherwise, primarily because of their QB situation, where they're probably hoping it's Tyler Shough, and if it's not, then we'll see. If he's not ready, then we'll see what they do with it. I do agree that Kellen Moore's arrival adds some optimism to the situation. It's a bit easier for me to see the Saints, doing some good things on offense rather than just tossing this whole team aside. The player that I'm most interested in at cost, though, is Kendre Miller at his RB 74 best ball ADP right now. First off, people are going to be probably not excited about Kendre Miller at any point collectively overall throughout this process because he hasn't done anything for us through 2 seasons. That is what has him down at RB 74, and it has him behind Miles Sanders. It has him behind a teamless Nick Chubb as we speak, behind the Chiefs' 7th round rookie running back, Brashard Smith, narrowly ahead of Washington's 7th round rookie running back. So even though Miller hasn't worked out for us yet, there's certainly still time. There's opportunity in this backfield. The Saints waited until round 6 to add a running back. I'm not scared about Clyde Edwards-Helaire being there. I don't believe in him at this point. This team needs its backfield given the QB situation, regardless of how it works out. And Alvin Kamara is built more to share work than your typical backfield leader. So I think he will be at his best if he's sharing more work. I think Kendre Miller is well set up to take some rushing work. We've gotten some early positive reports on him from Saints workouts so far. So at the near free draft price, I'm very much in on Kendre Miller once again.
Yeah, I think anyone but Dennis Allen as head coach of the Saints was going to be good news for Kendre Miller. So I do think he has a clean slate this year. He's got to stay healthy, but if he does, I mean, when he's been on the field, I think he's proven capable of getting at least some work in this Saints backfield. So I'm drafting him. I'm drafting Alvin Kamara, as we've talked about on previous shows. I'm definitely drafting both Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. I think they're my two favorite values on this Saints team. I think they're being discounted because of the quarterback situation. Obviously had some risk, but if Tyler Shuck can just be okay, I think Kellen Moore is good enough to make Olave and Shaheed turn into values at their ADPs right now.
And, if Shuck is not okay through the summer, then there's room for the Saints to go after Jameis Winston or even trade for Kirk Cousins or find some other solution. So we don't have to say, well, they're screwed because they've put it all on this rookie quarterback and he's no good.
Yes.
Check out the full NFL head coaches article on draftsharks.com. That is a free read. It will get you even more prepared to know how to treat all of these offenses in your fantasy football drafts. No matter what format you are playing or fantasy topic you are looking to explore, Draft Sharks is here to be your unfair advantage.